Hi all and welcome to the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show, the events that changed our world, part 2. And having gone through part 1, covering the background, the organisation, who is who, which groups were created directly out of these events, we continue in part 2 with some of the interactions between the Majestic 12 investigators and the EBE, which means extraterrestrial biological entity, who was under their custodianship for the best part of 12 months from 1948 through 1949. By August 1949, the EBE was returned to his own people in an arranged meeting and left this earth with some questions answered, but a whole lot more unanswered. This exchange that follows tells us a lot about us, that has very revealing answers in relation to the people and this planet. It is sad and damaging in equal measure that this exchange was not released in full to the public before this document was released in very small circles back in the 2016-2017 time frame. And even to this day, 72 years after the events, the public by and large remains ignorant that A, we're not alone, and B, aliens of many varieties exist, and C, they have visited us here regularly over tens of thousands of years, and in some cases longer. The cover-up of it all and the reasons why will be revealed in this show in greater depth near the end of this fully transcribed official document in my summary, and it goes way deeper than most people think. It is the public's chance to take a peek into much of this world, the majority of which is hidden from us all. It will elate many, particularly in the UFO and alt media circles. It will raise concerns to some, and it will bother, scare and create fear for others. People always ask for proof. Well, this is it, and it's 100% bona fide. This is your disclosure in a nutshell, and it will be accompanied by my background and knowledge from myself and a music extravaganza to accompany and support the narrative. So it's time for you all to get your popcorn out and put yourselves in balance as the magical carpet ride of disclosure sails around the world in a real and meaningful manner. I cannot think of no better song to launch us into this, and it is a personal favourite of mine, and also a poignant reminder and memory of my then 3-year-old grandchild who said this to me one day: "When are me and you going back to the stars, Grandad?" Right, these are the condensed conversations with the Aztec, not the Roswell, New Mexico extraterrestrial biological entities from April 1948 through March 1949. And the following conversations were held over an 11-month interval between various investigators labelled as INT and the Aztec EBE, and they are reduced from many hours of recorded debriefing and are included here to give the reader a degree of insight into the character and personality of the subject. And it was said on the document, these statements are not intended to provide complete answers to questions. Yeah, because they covered it up as why. and all transcripts of the debriefing and the original tape recordings of the same are available through special request with the proper clearance from the CIA Office of Counterintelligence or the Majestic with the code Digger Command and reference Project Aquarius. These may be secured through the XCOMCon.net liaison office at the Pentagon's Joint Strategic Objectives Staff Division in the National Defense sections. The irony of it calling it Project Aquarius should not be lost on the listener, which was later rolled out into another diversion program created by Blavatsky, Steiner, Crowley and others called the New Age, a replacement religion all carefully crafted into spirituality, all of which I exposed in From Russia with Love Part 8a through 8c. Now the real term for that program, if the truth be told, is New World Age religion. One world religion as formulated within the UN documents surrounding Agenda 21 or 30. So this next portion covers the interactions between Majestic 12 and the EBE that was covered in this ultra top secret report back in January of 1989. So Majestic says, "What shall we call you? What is your name in your native language?" The EBE responded, "Oh, know even that it isn't easy for me, but you will not get the phonetic pronunciations correct without practice. I am not able to write it down for you, because we do not use an alphabetic language that I could translate into English easily." Majestic, "Why don't you try it out on us anyway?" EBE, "Of course. Sethius, or Setimus, or Sectimus will do. This is the first of 4 names I am known by in our written language. In our language, this would be shown by a single graphic symbol that would explain my entire lineage." Majestic, "Why is your language so different from ours?" EBE, "Why is yours so different from the Egyptian of 30 centuries ago? Forgive me, but it's not that. But that is not a simple problem. The group I belong to gave up any identification with any one planet or its culture before your people learned to make fire. There was once thousands of languages, both oral and written, in many of our civilizations, and also in our many civilizations as well. It became important to use symbols to represent whole words and even concepts that all of us held in common. Soon your culture will do the same with public signboards at first. Travel and intercommunications of many peoples will always cause this to happen." Now sadly, those symbols were adapted, and the cabal and their secret agencies and societies used it to full effect against us. But it's pleasing to see now that many are unravelling them, and it will also be part of their downfall. Majestic, "Why are you here?" EBE, "Specifically to bring you these children, and we like trees." Majestic, "Would you mind expanding on that?" EBE, "Certainly. In what direction? You see, we would hate to see you blow up such a pretty little planet to ruin so many nice trees. You have to remember that at this was the time and with the backdrop of dropping and testing atomic weapons. It's the same time frame. And the EBE said, if only you knew how hard it is to make a tree from scratch. People are easy. They follow naturally, but not without trees, of course. Green things must be respected above all else except children, and are very much alike. Majestic, what are the intentions of your government by sending you here? Who sent you and why? If this isn't your first time, evidenced by your familiarity with English, why haven't there been any official contacts made? The EBE sighed and said in reverse order, what? And be strung up from one of those beautiful trees? Why? Because you sent us an invitation we could not resist, for our own curiosity as well as safety. We sent ourselves, or I volunteered, take your pick. We have no government. We outlawed it, or rather, we outgrew it. I suppose you cannot outlaw a thing without laws, and those require governments, do they not? Majestic, I don't understand. All too predictable, they don't understand. Non-critical or future thinking was a problem within those circles as far back as 1947, it seems. The EBE, I know that. Try laughing, he said. You will not understand, but you will feel better about your ignorance. Majestic, but that is not good enough. Make me understand. EBE, it will have to suffice. One cannot teach until a student wants to learn. How good do you want us to be? I will not harm you. We will not harm you or interfere any more than you want us to. We are only here to offer what you ask for in a manner we know you will accept. And you did ask us to come and visit. Majestic, when? Who sent for you? Who invited you? The EBE said almost 50 of your years ago, 1899, you sent us signals. You were looking for us, and you scared us with a signal you should not have been capable of sending. So we answered, but you didn't understand our answer then, just as you don't now. We do our best to please others, and when you didn't respond to our message to you, and you did not come for a visit, we felt that we really ought to stop by and see how you were doing. It has been a long time, and it was the neighbourly thing to do, of course. Besides, it was right on our way to another destination. Your world, I mean. Majestic, you've been here before? EBE, I know. We were surprised that you had forgotten us. Majestic, I don't see how we could forget you. Are you serious? The EBE says, very seldom. But yes, your culture, which now dominates this civilization, did forget us. Actually, your people seem to have undergone a period of history in which you were, in which you were so afraid of old truths that you erased them in favour of religious fantasy. And there you have it in a nutshell. And what this show has stated all along about religion, it was a tool and an experiment that worked against us. But the comment, the afraid of old truths, rang a bell also. Humanity chose to not remember at a reset in the past, and essentially took the City of Light pills mentioned in the series 100. The humanity of the past did not want to remember the past wars and traumas, and chose to forget or have them erased. And this has had a devastating effect on our development that continues to this day. Sadly, people on this planet live for the lie. They won't face or can't handle the truth by and large, even when it hits them in the face. Many people vehemently defend the lie. And that is childlike behaviour in overview. And we have to learn to become adults and accept reality. The EBE went on. Some of your people remembered us orally in their legends, such as those who speak the Kahu or Kahua-L, Narragansett, and the Athapassan dialects. They lived where we last visited, he said, but the high point of their cultures is also long past. Now, most of those languages were spoken in Alaska, northwest Canada, and around the Four Corners area of Southwest America, in particular the Ute lands. But the line just stated above will ring a massive alarm bell for this planet, and something that I have warned about in several shows, and something those people who follow our show at times have great difficulty with this particular line. Actually, your people seem to have undergone a period of history in which you were so afraid of old truths that you erased them in favour of religious fantasy. And like I have said repeatedly, that program has caused humans so much damage over time and denied us important knowledge, including the knowledge of other species from other planets, in case the humans work out their gods in their books were ETs all along. Majestic. I've never heard of them three native tribes. EBE. It's not surprising. Your history shows that the conqueror seldom preserves any history of their victims. I speak of the natives in this landmass, those called Indians, mostly on your eastern and southern borders, and in the ribbon of land that connects yours to the southern continent. Navajos, Aztecs, Incas, the Olmecs, and the Toltec cultures. These were all greater than your own civilization at the time when you were burning witches and killing their cats, which brought a plague that killed millions of your ancestors. Of course, you drove them mad and destroyed them with venereal disease and smallpox. Those you didn't slaughter for their gold. Majestic. Oh. EBE. And your social pundits speculate and joke about why we don't land in front of your nation's Capitol building and shake hands. We are different, not insane. Nice answer. Majestic, but we have changed. Western civilization is now the leader in this world for freedom and humanity. Oh dear. Did he seriously believe that fantasy act? EBE, two things. First, we believe that, or we wouldn't be here now. Also, tell that to the millions of Hebrews your Western civilization has destroyed in the past decade, or the millions of Negro families whose sons died to stop the madman Hitler, but who does not have plumbing in their homes as we speak. 72 years later, most of them still don't. Yes, you make progress, and that is hopeful for you, but emotionally you are very different from us. Not primitive. That label would be pure egotism on our parts, but you are very different and frightening to us. We are trying to learn to overcome those differences before your runaway technology thrusts you upon us without choice. Majestic, we have no space travel capability. How could we harm you? EBE, in our terms, you are very close to that point. And he asked, do you have small children? The answer was yes. Well, they will grow up in a world where space travel is taken for granted. And before they make you a grandfather, Earthmen will be in space. Majestic, all right, so you've been visiting us for some time. I have no choice but to accept that, even though I'd love some proof. The proof. Proof is only garnered by those who wish to see it. Many don't. And that is a fact. Where they believe man only started 6,000 years ago because the church told you so. And then believe hunter-gatherers built the pyramids within 500 years of life starting. And they call us conspiracy theorists. Majestic went on. But you still didn't tell me who sent you the message from Earth that brought you here. EBE, funny you should connect those two subjects. If you dig in a place, I will show you on any world map and you will find your proof. Unfortunately, I am now in the wrong country for this, but others of my people will instruct the proper government to dig there if you don't mind. You see, in a remote part of the nation you call Yugoslavia, we visited and helped the people there to build a very advanced culture over 7,000 years ago. It will be found. And what was the military and Majestic response? They sent in the US military and NATO and bombed all the evidence to smithereens, like they did in Iraq, Afghanistan and Syria, all to protect the church narrative. The EBE went on, but there is a beautiful mystery in the fact that the person who sent us your first message 49 years ago in 1899 did come from this nation originally. His transmission was sent from near here, however, in the state you call Colorado. Majestic, can you tell us his name? These people are not very bright, are they? Are there any proofs of your earlier visits? EBE, thousands of proofs if you look around. The scientist I spoke of was an electrical researcher named Nikola Tesla. You are old enough to have heard of him when he was still alive. You know, I just thought of a very good puzzle for some of you to solve. On an island you named the Isle of Pines in your Pacific Ocean, you will find what is left of a concrete landing platform we built there 115 centuries ago. 11,500 years ago. The Isle of Pines, P-I-N-E-S. You cannot miss finding that, since the footings we put down still cover many acres. Look for those if you would like to. No culture on your planet could have built them at that time. It would be fun for me if you ever locate them, because my great-grandfather helped to pour the mortar for them. And there is the evidence that many of our oldest structures were in part built by extraterrestrials, not humans per se, although there was at some point shared working together. But the biggest lie in that field is in Egypt. Majestic. How long do your people live? EBE. Somewhat too long, I think, at times. We have built up our age somewhat. It would vary, but I was alive when your whole continent was practically a question mark on the sea charts. Majestic. What about these babies we found with you? Are they human? What are we supposed to do with them? The EBE, rather indignantly, says, raise them, of course, as I would have done. Certainly they are human, perhaps more so depending on whose definition we use. You are too far away from understanding the whole science of bioengineering, yet for this to be sensible, but just accept we have sown the seeds of a rich harvest for your culture, and this will continue. They are only children, but raise them well, please, because the care of children is one of the few things we do not laugh about. Now that last statement has so many connotations it will boggle the mind. The very fact they are bringing babies here to be brought up should send DNA and biologists running for cover. It is the missing link of man, which has never been found. Because, as this show has stated, many here in the past, and perhaps now, did not come from here. There is evidence that on a certain levels are corroborated that the yellow, red and black races arrived here 40,000 years ago. Some suggest a seeding program. Others that I am aware of were refugees from various wars of the past, some of which were from Tiamat. Evidence in the Rus Vedic text, not the Indian texts, they were stolen, suggests the white race were here 640,000 years ago. You know, how can science carry on lying to the people and making up the ridiculous conspiracy theory of humanity all started from two people, Adam and Eve? The real Eve was Lilith, who stole children and is linked to the moon. She was half human and half snake, and so a chimera. Also known as the Kali Ma, the Dark Mother. But if we're to believe the official narrative, for a start, that would make us all a product of incest. And the key factor is we would have all had the same blood group, shared DNA, and all be the same skin colour. This is not the case, and it makes a mockery of the official stance of those so-called science groups. One only has to look with an open mind as to why the rhesus negative mother would reject her own child in the womb. And how did science work that out so quickly? And how did they know what to put into the injection to stop the mother from rejecting the birth? Statistical analysis was not like the endless figures we get now, or the accessible databases. Most records back then were kept on cards and had to be sorted through over many years to determine a pattern. And even then, the average injection or vaccine has to be found, with testing that takes over a decade before it's launched, unless it's COVID-19. And yet this injection was made available in the 1960s. Clearly an external input was made into this, and not from here also. Another aspect of this seeding babies here is the psychological damage done to that child. Who or where are that child's parents? Where did they come from? Where is home? And why do so many in our own group feel like they don't belong here or never came from here? And that is also represented in many other groups and peoples around the world. Why put them people through that level of trauma? To those that do remember, where is their help with this matter? Who do you speak to? The psychologist? Good luck with that, because that's a one-way trip to the nut house. Due to their sheer ignorance of these wider matters and the complicity of the governments and agency clowns to cover it all up. Those people who remember fragments or otherwise, to them this lifetime is a jail sentence, an equivalent to a transgendered person knowing that they're in the wrong body. And if you'll pardon the pun, but everything to these people appears alien to them. Do they not? People who refuse to believe what they see because the government told them it's all a lie. But the question remains is, who made the government or the church the bastions of truth and proof? Because neither of them are, and both are in it for their own agendas, the control and the abuse of the people, no matter which government or indeed which church. All are and have been lying to us and have done so since the day you were born or brought here. Majestic, if you say so, but such a trip has no purpose in our way of seeing things. That was to their world. EBE, of course not, and that is why we do what we do. Listen now, because this could go on forever if you don't. We are at home wherever we park our craft. It is huge by any standards you could apply. We are concerned because this area of space is one we cross regularly as a simple matter of course, a bit like your campers who vacation at the same place every year. But suddenly we find our camping site threatened by bears. But bears are protected. You are not supposed to hurt them. So you must tame them or give up the whole vacation. Do you see that although you are a long way from travel to other stars by our standards, you will be overrunning the whole area by the next time our children pass by here? Do you see why it is vital, unless you destroy yourselves first, for us to tame you now before you come to us? Would you let savage headhunters roam the streets of a city without sending them to school first? And this is where I personally have an issue that still rankles today in relation to the Universal Council. They talk about us destroying ourselves, but it was their element of off-world beings who, by and large, gave humans the tech and capabilities to destroy this planet in the first place. It was their ilk who have destroyed this planet several times in the past, with their Star Wars battles. It was they that destroyed the 2 moons we had in the sky previously. They who introduced the Saturn Moon Matrix, and quite frankly, the ridiculous experiment known as CERN. It was they who have engaged the greed, egotistical and arrogant entities that operate this planet, called governments, military and agencies, and by and large ignored all dialogue with the average human, unless they were of use, generally for scientific purposes like extracting DNA, blood, organs and our babies. It was they who traded us for pieces of meat to fight their wars, and they who used us for food. So a little bit of balance was and is required here when discussing who is to blame. Blaming humans for everything is the remit of the Draco. Ain't that right, Shane? The EBE went on. We cannot interfere with you any more than you could interfere with bears in your parks. Someday we would rather you join us, visited our worlds where we do make camp, and joined us on our long voyage of discovery or not. It is your destiny as long as you do not try and alter ours. Try and grow into our perspective, and all the illogic you question will seem very reasonable. It is a matter of scale. Centuries instead of decades. Someday you will be like us, and you will see. Some new short-lived species will think you are a crazy metaphysical paradox too, and you will have to learn to treat them gently as children, without letting your egos get in the way. Majestic, but with your science you could make any world your own personal paradise. Why live in spaceships? EBE. Yes, and with our weapons we could take what we want as well. But why have one world when you can see them all? You all covet land, a very old idea and only natural when the supply is limited. And then said this statement, which should resonate with everyone who listens to this show. You have heard it before. Just try to accept we are in paradise when we are seeing something new. Our God is change. Our religion is understanding. Searching for truth is our greatest social challenge and purpose. When you build up your age, this will become as clear to you as to why you must breathe air. When humanity grasps those last few lines, we will be on our way to real progression. That has been denied to us by fake gods and their progression blocking program called religion. Majestic, it sounds like yours is the ideal perfect world. EBE, no. When you have more years, filling them profitably is a real problem. And the trouble with being a loving species is that you want to prove it by making more of your kind with a partner of love. Of course, this must be closely regulated in a culture such as yours, and so relationships of an intimate nature are difficult to leave to one's heart. Majestic, you speak of the heart being the seat of emotions. This is a concept we use on earth, but we know it to be a sort of romantic fiction. Why does an advanced race like yours maintain such a notion? The heart is a romantic fiction indeed. What a bunch of jackasses. And humanity wonders why we're not progressing. With jackasses like these taking charge and making decisions for us, we'll never progress beyond children. And that has to stop. And this is why we need to build the People's Club for and by the people. So we have a voice and a say. Why? Because we are the voice. Right, on we go. Nobody said this disclosure was easy. It's not. But it needs to be delivered. That way we can process it, heal it, and then adapt and adopt to it. So the EBE's response of why you would need the concept of romance, the heart being the seat of romantic fiction, was, well, I used that particular expression for your benefit, but why do you object to romance? Your species is driven by little else except romantic vision. Why not yours as well? Certainly our way of life must seem romantic to you. It does to us. We write poems and express ourselves with works of art just as you do. Many of the greatest works of construction on your world were inspired by a joyful effort of our people and yours in the distant past. We leave these wherever we go, and you romantic creatures have tried for many generations to explain why such huge monuments to human engineering were ever built in the first place. Why? They were built to express the joy of living, of course. And the greatest sense of satisfaction our people have gotten from working side by side with yours in the past has been one of our biggest joys in life. That is another reason for our being here. Surely even a small child can understand such joy. Majestic, you keep talking about a message for us. Can you define that a little more? Yeah, like I said, they're not very bright, these people. The message is fairly clear. Stop being children and grow up. And yet 72 years later, we still see no evidence of that in their circles. The EBE says, we simply are. We have no deeper purpose than to be. We do not wish direct contact with your people. You would reject us in your present frame of mind. So we seek to be accepted at the lowest possible level, hence the broadest one possible. Never a truer word spoken in jest. We seek to be accepted at the lowest level possible. So what he is referring to is the government, the lowest level possible. And yet we the people honour and obey them like some demigods of the past. And yes, he is right. Many of our peoples would reject them due to the fear-based programs run on radio, television, and also movies. He went on, that is a cultural myth. We seek to be the next Santa Claus, to put it bluntly. This must come to your people, from your people. The understanding will be given you by the widened perceptive skills of these children we are bringing you. So what he is saying here is, and a confirmation, they started bringing in here children with extra strands of DNA and higher soul development to teach the world how to progress. And what did the jackasses do? Declared them all ADHD, which is a fictional disorder, and poisoned them with their pills and vaccines, or declared them insane, or targeted them with their MKUltra experiments and in league with off-world entities. Fact. He went on, for your sake, this must not come from political or religious leaders. Exactly my point. We must build and provide an alternative to those harvesters of life force energy. Both of them. Like he said, they represent the lowest level possible. Government and the church. He said it must flow evenly throughout all common cultures of the earth. And that is where the People's Club can come in. A large body of people spread globally, operating in need, not greed, caring and sharing, cooperative that operates in peace. And only then can we all play a role in building this for the future. The EBE said the message is not that we are here, but that each of you can control where you are going. be like us or different as you choose. But you choose, not your political leaders who believe that only a tiny % of the elites can rule wisely over their masses, or those who spread fear of death in order to enrich their lives through religion. Oops. And that's another confirmation right there. Those who spread fear of death in order to enrich their lives through religion. Does that sound remotely like a program we should be following? The evidence against that organisation and program stacks up by the day. And yet people who live in fear and lies wish to continue to propagate it. It has brought us nothing but illusion, death and trauma. Because deep inside all of you lies all of your answers. It was never external of you to begin with. Just like the real God, Source.